You hear what he said? Jake, you hear what he said? Give him a thumbs up and ready to go. I totally understand.
Because we were all nominated by the mayor or city council.
Yeah. Give the thumbs up, let's go. Do we have? Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the February 15th City Planning Commission meeting to order. Let's see, Mark Klecker, Chair, present. Rich, Vice Chair,
Here.
present. Jason,
Here.
present. Tony, do we have Tony online?
Present.
Okay.
Yes.
And Amanda.
Present.
Okay, and Colin. Everybody read the minutes from last month?
Present.
All right, there we go.
They must have a delay.
Okay. So everybody's present. All right, the approval of the minutes for last month. Anybody have any questions on the minutes? If not, I'd like a motion.
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 3. Jake, you want to take over for that?
Yes, thank you. Next up on the agenda, we have a review of a right-of-way vacation request. This is for a portion of West 20th Street between Burst Avenue and Haybarger Avenue. The petitioner is present to give the commission an update on the process and answer any questions. We have Mr. Dan Fiskus here.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is a follow-up to the vacation request of West 20th Street. Since the last meeting, Rarick Pacific, me as being the representative for Rarick, has contacted each utility and the sole property owner on West 20th Street other than Rarick Pacific in regard to the vacation request of the street. To date, all affected utilities and the property owner are in agreement with the closure of the street, barring obviously some continued row agreements, right-of-way agreements and new easements once the property boundaries are reestablished. Along with specific to the property owner on the street, aside from us, some additional concessions for maintenance and legal costs associated with doing this.
I know we went over this last month, and it looks like everything's in order now. Anybody have any problems?
I do not. No, I don't.
Anybody else online there? Okay.
If anybody in attendance via Zoom has any comments or questions, please use the raise hand function. I see none.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Abstain.
Oh, you abstain? Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the vacation or recommend approval of the vacation request to council.
I made the motion, he made the second, I just said all in favor. I'm assuming everybody heard me online?
And
good?
Your mic, you
It's
might
green.
need to get it a little closer. I think you're okay. I would just add that we should probably make the recommendation contingent on any easement agreements, being in place prior to the execution of the ordinance.
Yep,
I would agree with that.
I agree with that, it's right there too. It's on there. All right. So moved. All right,
Good.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next up, we have review of a right-of-way vacation request. This is for a portion of Myrtle Street from north of West 16th Street to the existing railroad corridor. We have representatives of Porter Consulting and Engineering here.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Ashley Porter from Porter Consulting Engineers. We're here requesting the vacating of the portion of Myrtle Street, approximately 340 feet of length of Myrtle Street, south of the railroad and north of 16th Street, bounded on the east by property of the Enterprise Development Center of Erie County, and on the west by BPRX, or Berry Global Plastics, for the purposes of developing a warehouse facility. A nice article in the paper this morning regarding that 90,000 square foot warehouse facility on the eastern property. This would serve to incorporate this section of roadway, which services no one except these two properties, and be integrated into the project development. There is a cross-access easement agreement between the two parties so that they can utilize fully without restriction that section of Myrtle Street.
Okay. I know I read about, anybody have any questions? No. Yeah, I don't either. I think it's pretty straightforward. And once again, recommended approval of vacation request conditioned on any required easements being addressed. Yep.
Very good.
Okay, you want to make a motion?
So moved. To approve.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.
There we go. We got someone online.
Thank you. Next up, we have review of a right-of-way vacation request, and this is for a portion of West Lakeview Boulevard, which is an unimproved right-of-way from Elliott Road to Sassafras Street. We have the petitioners here to present the project. Ask any questions. Mr. Stutzman.
Members of the board, my name is Dan Stutzman. My wife and I would like to build a house on a piece of property that we bought at 210 West Grandview Boulevard. On the second page, you can see the character of it has a creek running through it, but there's a lot of fall on it. So only about half of the property is buildable. And so we're requesting that on the third page there, where West Lakeview Boulevard was never completed, that we have a vacation of the right-of-way so that we can gain approximately 30 feet. That allows us to move the house over, and we can get our foundation in there. The rest of the paperwork, I have the signed petition from the neighbors, with the exception of one. I have a letter from National Fuel and a map showing that their lines are clear. A letter from Verizon showing that their lines are clear. They're all on the right-of-way of West Grandview Boulevard, not going down what we're asking to be vacated. Later on there, we have an issue with a storm sewer drain from the city of Erie that only goes about 20 feet off the road and stops going down what would have been Lakeview Boulevard and spills out onto the property. So I've had the engineer design a way to get that down to the creek. Actually, it wouldn't be all the way to the creek, it would stay on my property. I guess that keeps us from getting involved with the DEP. But it would spill out below where my basement's going to be. Then I have a topographical map that shows where the footprint of the house would be. It's about 1,800 square foot house. And then I have a basic floor plan. We haven't gone to the architect yet. We figured we'd wait till we got this approved. But the basic design we like is something in a mid-century modern, kind of like a Frank Lloyd Wright. Because of the hill, we want to kind of build the house into the property, not sticking out on top of it.
Right. Property owners, no concern. Petition has gone to no effective utility. Okay.
Right now, I have about a third of an acre. I think this would add about 0.1, so I would have about a 0.4 acre lot there.
Jake, has that, the sewer, or the drain, has that been addressed?
Yes.
Okay. Oops, I think someone wants to speak.
Yeah, Jason Sayers is here from the city engineer's office to
Okay.
give folks an update on that.
I'll just say that we support the vacation, provided that storm drain extension is put in and then we accept it and that there's an easement, so.
Okay.
The work is at this point just proposed.
Well, other than the drain, it's the only thing I see we having a problem with. And assuming that happens, and it looks fine to us.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that upon the condition of the drain, that this be approved. Second?
I'll second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next up on the agenda, we do have the City Planning Commission 2021 Annual Report. In February of every year, the Planning Commission reviews the annual report for the previous year, so it can be submitted to the governing body by March 1st.
Everybody left.
It's a recap of the activity of the Planning Commission over the past year. Includes basically all the business that's conducted over the previous year, including any zoning ordinance or zoning map amendments, subdivision and land development activity that requires the Planning Commission approval, street and alley vacations and/or closings, as we heard here today, blighted property designation, waterfront conditional use, application reviews, and other business, things such as neighborhood planning activities that are brought before the commission for their review and endorsement. And then in addition, we also have a description of the 2022 planning priorities, which is a short list of things that the Planning Commission will be working on over the next several months. And that includes historic preservation plan for the city, continuing neighborhood planning, a review of the saldo and an update of the city's subdivision and land development ordinance, and also zoning ordinance updates, which is usually an ongoing animal. Are there any questions as far as the report itself? This was distributed to the Planning Commission members previously.
I don't have any
I
questions.
didn't have a question on the report itself, but I was wondering if it was going to be posted anywhere for the public.
Yes, once the Planning Commission has endorsed it, then we will get it posted on the city's website.
Thank you. Just a couple of just more explanatory notes on what we'll be working on with the Planning Commission this year. The preservation plan is a big lift project that you'll be involved in. Jason, of course, sits as the liaison to the Historic Review Commission, but since it is a citywide plan, that'll be something that the Planning Commission also sits on and advises during the planning process. Chris Kinder is here, who is our preservation planner, and so he will be leading that charge. More to come on that. I think this will be a really a fantastic project for us to undertake. We'll be looking at a number of different areas of historic preservation, not only our historic assets that exist, but also doing an analysis of the historic assets that once were and are no longer. In so many cases, and I think this is important to note, we have made a point in the request for proposals, which is out until March 11th, so if you want to share that. We're getting a lot of good feedback already on the RFP. But one of the pieces of our RFP that we made sure was very intentional is to seek qualified firms who understand the impact of the urban renewal that happened in the 50s and 60s that almost decimated so much history of our African American population. And so we're looking for firms who understand that narrative and understand how they can bring that narrative and document that process to the city of Erie. So I think that's an important piece of the work. And as we move into a more inclusive community, we're trying to find ways that we can interweave that throughout all of our work, including preservation. So I think that's just important to note and know that you'll be a part of that. In addition, because we are a certified local government, CLG, we became a received CLG status last year. It allows us to go after funding just for CLG communities, and Chris will be putting together a request for funding for training programs. So the CLG provides grant funding for training, technical assistance, pretty much ongoing. So we're looking at putting together a training program specifically on historic preservation, which will be open to really anyone who kind of touches on preservation efforts. So that'll include the Planning Commission. And also note, we didn't put this in the annual report, and I probably should have put it on the agenda. We are looking at bringing in a Planning Commission and a Zoning Hearing Board training in April. You'll get a doodle poll from me very soon. We're going to be partnering with Mill Creek Township, who's also interested in training their Planning Commission and their Zoning Hearing Board. Some of you may have been involved in the training that was probably 4 or 5 years ago with Denny Pucco, who used to work for the state DCD, had provided that training. So we're bringing him back in to give us one-on-one training on Planning Commission and Zoning Hearing Board. So there's that. And then also what was not on the annual report, because I failed at replying thoroughly to Jake's request on what should be on here. But in 2022, we're also looking at vacant property registration program. We have talked about it in the past, and it's not something that would be in the zoning ordinance, so it's not something that you would typically think of that would be brought before you, but I am advising, if we move forward with this program, that it be brought before the Planning Commission for review and recommendation, since you do act as the citizen planner for the city and an advisor to the city. So we'll be meeting in March with the administration, a couple of city council people and our solicitor, as well as our building officials, building code officials, to talk about a vacant property registration ordinance. So you'll hear more about that as it moves forward. But just wanted to put that on your radar as well. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
I would just ask for a motion to endorse the annual report.
I'll make a motion to endorse the report.
It makes sense to add
Sure.
the training to the 2022 priorities. So I'll make that I'll make that edit.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept that.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Excellent, thank you. And I'll call Kathy back up to the podium to talk about the ARP update.
Our ARP. I know Tony's on the call, and she sits on the Council of Advisors for our ARP as a representative of the Planning Commission. Tony, is there anything you wanted to say before I sort of dive into the update as well?
I was just going to touch on, they did go live with the applications in January, I believe 20th or so. From what I understand, they had a great turnout. People really responded to the program, that they actually had to kind of take a pause in applications, I believe. Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was put on hold until May for more applications, so that they can actually review and take care of the ones that came in so fast.
Yeah, that's correct, Tony. That's what I would have opened with as well. There's about $9 million of the funding that was earmarked for Department of Economic and Community Development. So total of $17 million you can see in your update, your one-page update. $9 million was through a number of different programs, was offered for competitive grant applications or competitive applications. They received, and that was what went live in January, they received over 238, I think, applications, which overwhelmed the system. And so they have paused taking any new applications until they can get through this first batch. And they hope to have them open, as Tony mentioned, by May again. There's still additional funding programs through DECD that are continuing to be administered through Chris Groner and Deb Smith's office. And then, as you can see, all the other buckets have pretty much taken the majority of the $76 million that has been allocated. The ones that I can speak to most clearly, of course, are is the $8 million to planning and neighborhood resources, just over $8 million. The majority of that is $5 million for public space improvements, so parks and right-of-way improvements, so sidewalks, street trees, things like that. We don't know what those are yet, so we'll be evolving that program as we get more resident input. $3 million, $1.5 million for the East Bayfront Greenway Plan, which you saw in the East Bayfront Strategic Plan, and $1.5 million for Quinty and turning that into a park. So those are the funds that we'll be managing, and you'll be getting a lot more information on those. And then the one that's really we're pulling the trigger on this month is information technology. $975,000 was earmarked for what we call the Digital Infrastructure and Digital Transformation Program. Amy's shaking her head because she was one of the lucky ones selected to be the project manager of this big lift. It's going to take 12 to 14 months to convert the processes that we do in code and planning now into the new system. Most of that is technical assistance training and then data conversion of what was hard copy processes into a digital process. We have selected CityWorks as the platform. It is pretty much the gold standard throughout many local governments on permits, licensing, and land development. Timmons Group is the group that will be doing the conversion process over the next year, and CityWorks is the platform. We are also, will be under contract with Esri for ArcGIS and technical assistance to launch that. So we are going digital in a pretty significant way over the next year. We're all, I think the majority of the staff are genuinely excited and a little, maybe a little hesitant about what's to come. But in the end, it's going to really be quite transformational to have access to all this information, have our code officers have access in the field to all this information, and then particularly our developers and our private developers who will be able to see it in real time where they are in the review and approval process. So it's a great way to coordinate efforts. More to come on that, and if you had any questions about any of these programs, I'm here to answer them. It's a lot.
Yeah.
We got to go almost over the finish line. Okay, very good, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. Ordinance, okay. All right, adequate sites.
Next up, we have sort of our ongoing discussion on the subdivision and land development ordinance. The preliminary recommendations, I'm hoping since last month that folks have had a chance to kind of digest this overview document a little bit more. I know we had some conversation on it last month, and hopefully folks took a little bit of time to even review our existing saldo, just to get a sense of, kind of what is this document, what kinds of regulations are actually included in it. And right now we're in the process of kind of looking at other saldos, looking to try and identify some of those best practices. We know there are some things that we want to add to the city's saldo that are currently not in there. So that's really what we're kind of looking at right now, in addition to the administrative stuff, because there are some administrative processes that we don't really have written out in place yet. So there'll be kind of a dual effort here going on as far as creating some of those administrative tools, things like forms and applications, and looking at the fee schedule and things of that nature to see if there's things like that we need to amend as well. And then also looking at these land development review and approval processes that we want to get in the actual ordinance, and things like complete streets that right now is not in the ordinance. Before, when the ordinance was adopted, those items, particularly like, complete streets and walkable streets and things of that, were not really a thing. So it's just something that's now certainly more predominant, and something that the city certainly wants to pursue, to kind of tie into the Active Erie plan that was just, that's being worked on right now. It's been adopted, and it's being implemented. So this will help to close that loop. Kathy, did you have any other comments? I mean, at this point, I know we're just getting started, but if you want to touch on any of these other things.
No, but I do, because I think that this is important. I think the saldo is
it is.
The process, particularly land development review process, which is lacking, sans absent from your saldo, so it's really just a SAL, not a LDO. I think this will help in a lot of ways. One, I would like to see larger projects come before the Planning Commission for your review and approval. I think that's important for public transparency of some of those larger projects. And it also helps to incorporate, and we've talked about this, we talked about it at the last meeting, and Jason, you, and Rich, you would understand this. Concept plan review is the simplest way to address early concerns and questions about even the simplest to the most complicated development proposals. So including a concept plan review process where a developer comes in, or just a guy or a gal thinking about doing something. Who do I talk to? What do I need to know? Being able to plug into the system and understand what all of the concerns, comments, and the processes is early on actually makes development easier in the city of Erie, and would help offset some of the problems that we saw even at the last meeting. So I think this will be, you'll see lots of return on your investment by updating the saldo, and this is the year to do it because we've been talking about it for a couple of years now, and I think it's time to do it. So that's all I had to say with it. It's time.
And once again, thank you.
I'll just stay up in case you have any questions. I'll adjourn the meeting for you. No, okay, good.
All right. Any public comment?
I see none from our online participants.
Okay.
Again, if you do have any comments to share, now would be the time to use that raise hand function. Any comments at all?
Okay,
See none.
all right. Gonna need a motion to, oh, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
You'd mentioned about swapping secretaries.
Oh,
Yes. Yes, I think we may as well do that formally as far as doing a new nomination for the secretarial duties. You know, we really decided it makes sense for me to continue on in that role. And so we'd like to have the board have a motion to do that.
what are we doing?
I would make a motion to appoint Jake Welsh as the board secretary for 2022.
I will second that motion. All in favor? Aye. Well, there you have it.
Thank you.
I forgot we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Okay, we're good? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Bye.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day, guys.
You too.
Thank you, you too.